All right, welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're jumping right into something pretty specific.
Yeah, let's get straight to it.
We've got this headline. It's from the Washington Post, dated June 20th, 2025. Reads, Trump's guard deployment, a legal crossroads.
Mm-hmm. And that URL attached, it seems to mention a ruling specifically about keeping the National Guard in L.A.
Exactly. So our goal here, our mission for this deep dive, is really to explore why this is being framed as a legal crossroads.
Right. What does that term actually mean in this context?
Yeah, what does it tell us about, executive authority, federal-state dynamics, just looking at the legal aspects presented here?
And that's the value for you listening, quickly getting a handle on the core legal issues behind headlines like this.
Cutting through the noise, as they say.
Pretty much. Getting to the why it matters legally without getting bogged down in, well, the surrounding politics.
Okay, so let's try and unpack this then. The headline implies a past guard deployment.
Under former President Trump, yeah. And a desire to keep them there in Los Angeles.
Right. But that phrase, legal crossroads, that's the bit that really catches the eye, isn't it?
It absolutely does. What makes this situation rise to that level? A crossroads.
What's fascinating here is what that term usually signals in legal reporting.
Yeah, legal crossroads often means we're hitting some pretty fundamental questions. It's not just a simple legal dispute.
So fundamental questions about what exactly?
Well, typically about the scope of executive power. Maybe presidential authority, especially concerning the military, or in this case, the National Guard.
Okay, the guard's role, federal versus state.
Precisely. And maybe how that intersects with federal-state relations.
Yeah.
That L.A. ruling mentioned is probably right at the center of this crossroads.
So it suggests a real point of tension or decision in the legal landscape, not just business as usual.
Exactly. Focusing on the legal implications, not necessarily the wisdom of the deployment itself.
Okay, and here's where it's really interesting for you, the listener. The specific mention of an LA ruling, a judicial ruling, right? How does one specific court decision, maybe in LA, actually become this significant crossroads?
Well, think about it. A ruling like that, maybe an injunction, maybe something else, it forces a direct legal test.
A test of what? The president's action.
Yeah, a test of the president's authority to deploy or maintain the guard in that specific situation, potentially against the state's wishes or beyond standard procedure.
So it sounds like someone challenged the deployment legally.
That's what it implies. The state, maybe, or other groups. This ruling would be the court's answer, weighing the president's directive against existing law, maybe statutes like the Insurrection Act or constitutional principles.
And even a local ruling can have wider ripples.
Oh, absolutely.
Mhm.
Decisions like this, even if they seem localized to L.A., can set legal precedents. They can clarify or challenge established boundaries of power. That's how the law often evolves through specific cases testing the limits.
Right. And if we connect this to the bigger picture,
Which is important to do.
these kinds of legal fights over presidential power, especially involving military forces like the Guard, they aren't exactly new, are they?
No, not at all. It's a recurring theme in American legal history. You constantly see this tension playing out
Tension between what? Executive action and...
between the need or perceived need for decisive presidential action on one hand and the constitutional checks and balances like state control over militias on the other.
So this Washington Post headline, Legal Crossroads, it's pointing to a live example of that exact tension being argued out right now, likely in court, because of that LA ruling.
Precisely. It highlights that the judiciary is actively involved in examining those boundaries.
It's a snapshot of the legal system grappling with these powers in real time.
Yeah, and while our focus here is purely on the legal angle, it's, worth noting these legal challenges often happen in very politically charged moments.
Sure, the context matters.
But the court's role in these crossroads situations is often about clarifying or constraining power based on law, regardless of the political winds. It shows the court's trying to maintain that balance.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you? This headline isn't just news. It's pointing to an active, ongoing legal discussion.
A discussion that's really testing the limits of presidential authority over the National Guard.
And that specific LA ruling seems to be the focal point, the thing that makes it a crossroads right now. It's the Constitution in action, basically.
Which leads to, I think, a really important question for you to think about.
Go on.
How do these legal challenges, these specific court cases described as crossroads in headlines like this one from the Post, how do they continuously shape and reshape our understanding of government power?
Huh. So it's not static.
Not at all. It shows how constitutional interpretation isn't just academic. It's constantly evolving, dynamically, in response to real-world events and legal tests. Something to definitely keep an eye on.